All right, good morning and welcome back to Valuable Coaching. Today we continue our interview with Cara Hill from My Recruiting Solutions. And Kevin starts off this interview with a great question, kind of a scenario, and she takes us through it. So let's go ahead and jump right into today's interview.
So I have a question for you, if you may. Let's say there's a kid lives in Arizona. Let's say she's good enough to walk on to lower level WCC, lower level Big West Division One, could get offers at like an Atlantic 10 or Big Sky, like a scholarship, and then can get any Division two scholarship in the country. She's good enough to be a Division two volleyball NCAA player. She's one of your clients and she fits the bill. Let's say she has 3.9, SATs are through the roof, extracurricular activity, doing everything you're saying. Parents are doing everything you're saying. When the rubber hits the road, maybe like her sophomore year, and she says, look, I've narrowed it down. You've helped me narrow it down. What do you think the order of importance is? Do you think the order of importance is that they go on unofficial visits? Do you think it's that they go to the camp of the university and sign up for the camp so that they could be on campus? Do you think it's that they enter a weightlifting program and get really good at weightlifting? Do you think it's to go to one of your showcases? Or do you think it's to do like a high performance camp or all? I'm just curious where you would navigate that athlete if it was like that.
So it all depends on the personality of the player. And I think that coaches have such a huge impact on your future. And so to me, the coaching fit is just as important as the academic fit. So that's probably the other value that I think that we bring to the table is being able to really, build a relationship with the player and understand what makes them tick. And then it honestly comes down to, obviously the academic fit, where the family wants to be financially. The A10 has some like pretty high academic schools. There's not a lot of high academic schools in Division two. So if academics are the driving force, you might be considering the A10, even though you could have a fabulous experience. A lot of our clients will look at Division one or Division three if they're more academically inclined. Not to say that there's not some great schools, but oftentimes people will come to us and they'll say, we want a top 20, a top 30, or a top 50 nationally ranked institution. And so on the Division two list, you have like a Colorado School of Mines. There's a few that are out there that are that well ranked, but outside of that, you're really looking at either Division one or Division three. So I think it comes down to the personality of the player. And the way we counsel through is, again, taking everything into consideration, knowing that your major can change, right, at any time. I changed my mind a million times before I got into this business. And I know others do the same as well. So I just think that I think there's so much more into guiding, and there's just so many variables that come into being able to direct. High performance can provide some great opportunities with some great coaching. And it just kind of depends on who's running the coaching, for that particular program. Showcases, I think there's no such thing as bad exposure. I think that you need every opportunity to be seen and to gain exposure. So I'm a huge fan of showcase events. I'm not a huge fan of all of them. I don't think they're all created equally. But I do think that what we do is a really good job, and it's a great value for a family. So I'm pretty passionate about the events that we put together. And we draw a good level of talent that come to ours. And I think that makes our events a little bit more unique. But I think that summer camps provide an amazing opportunity for a player to go and have that experience and learn from the coach and really feel, do they get their vibe? I'm actually a huge proponent. I just did a webinar this week on the college coaching clinics that a lot of fabulous clubs run. I know that Wave has done one with SG Elite where they've rotated different college coaches. T Street, Sunshine, City Beach, TAV. There's tons of them. Kiva does it. A5 does it. NYC Juniors. There's some really fabulous camps that really give you a tremendous value because you're paying $500 for the camp, and then you have the ability to personally work with like up to 16 or 18 different college coaches. In fact, the one that Wave and SG Elite did actually had the ability to work with a lot more coaches because they switched locations. So I thought that was amazing. So I think that it's all important, really. I think it's all important. Everybody has a journey, and along the way, you're trying to figure out all the different puzzle pieces of figuring out what that perfect fit is. I think the coaching fit is hugely impactful in a player's life.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely I had the luxury of meeting a couple different coaches, and I had to do it all on my own. I know Kevin's talked about him trying to market himself on his own. But yeah, I definitely was looking for the whole experience and what it was going to look like. And we even talked to actually one of the coaches we talked to, Allie McCullough, formerly Allie Daly. She went to Long Beach, and she even said, yeah, she went there because she knew it was a great volleyball school, didn't really go visit it. And once she got there, it was like, oh, it's a commuter school. This is not really what I was looking for. And so, yeah, finding that whole fit and having all these different experiences is definitely important to try and narrow down, what you're going to do. And I really am glad you bring up the fact that if you're committing to a 4-year university to play volleyball and to be there and get a major, it should be something that you're really investing in. Because again, if you're just going there to go play, you might as well save a lot of money and get some classes at a junior college and rock it there, and then figure out what you want to do with life. But yeah, I've really been very impressed. I like this holistic approach you're taking, and the fact that it involves the family and the kids and yourself, and then teaching them about the different colleges and the coaches. It's really amazing.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to also give you an opportunity to talk about is we've really focused on the girls and women's side of college volleyball, but there is no doubt that you're doing the exact same thing on the women's side on the beach. I mean, I've called you and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in Alabama, talking to Kathy Gregory or excuse me, Kathy DeBoer, the AVCA. I'm talking to all the coaches, and you're out there working it, and working with kids, and you do showcases not only for the indoor, you do it for the beach. And then also I'll turn around, I'm like, there she is. She's at a boys tournament, working with athletes too. So is there anything you want to kind of plug or mention on the boys or beach side?
Beachside's getting really complicated right now. Fiercely competitive, and that 5th year is throwing a wrench into a lot of recruiting plans for a lot of players. I think on the boys side, that extra 5th year, boys do want to stay and play. I think more than even the girls is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
They want to play longer, and that's just what I'm hearing. So take it for what you will. Not to say that there aren't girls that want to play. I know I'm going to get annihilated for that. So, but I will say that, boys mature later in life too. And I think that if there's an ability to stay an extra year, a lot of them have expressed that interest in wanting to do that. I think Stanford losing their program is just a very, very sad aspect of what's going on right now. And I think a lot of the high academic schools, and talking to some of the high academic coaches on the men's side, have said, we're waiting and seeing. A lot of those guys entered the portal, and they're going to, pick up who they can. And I think it's a really complicated time. I think, as a parent of teenage boys, I think that it's super important that you are helping them stay diligent with their communication. And I'll tell you what was interesting. I worked with a couple of guys this year. I worked with Dane Hillis, who is going to Long Beach State. He is, amazing pin. He's tiny, but jumps through the roof and is just a phenomenal player and kid, but super excited to see him go. And he committed before all of this happened. He's a twin. So I actually worked with his sister as well. She's going to Franklin Pierce. And then I worked actually with his good friend, Cade, and Cade's going to UC Irvine. But what I found interesting, those guys worked the phone quite a bit. And the questions that the guys got asked were different in a lot of ways than the questions on the women's side. And I found that really, really interesting. I have not worked with a lot of boys. I've had a few. So I don't have that same amount of athletes to compare to, which is why, when I'm saying this is what I'm hearing, it's because I've had a limited experience on the men's side. On the beach side, the kids that we've had on the beach side, they're all done, except we've got a couple that are going through the process now. And it's been competitive. It's been really competitive. There's been a lot of kids that have wanted to go in the transfer portal. I just heard from somebody today who wanted to go into the transfer portal and was trying to ask questions about the process and, can they transfer within conference and all that kind of stuff. And it's a weird time right now.
Yeah. Well, also you touched up on, I can kind of speak on the boys. You're totally right about a lot of the things you said. And a lot of the men's players, like you said, they redshirt naturally their first year, which is sometimes common in the women's game. And it's because these boys develop a little later. And the boys, since there's not as many teams at the Division I level, their rosters are much bigger at times. And so what also is interesting is if a student athlete redshirted, then last year they actually got some playing time and they played about half or a third of the season. The NCAA did not count that as a year of eligibility. So there are kids right now that are in their third year of college, but they're still technically freshmen. And a lot of these coaches are like, we're going to try to get them into grad school. We're going to try to get them in. And it can work sometimes if the child is from California and is at Northridge or Long Beach State, because they're just paying that in-state tuition. And that sometimes happens a lot in men's volleyball. But therefore, that's why I think it's important to get in touch with someone who knows what they're doing, recruiting, coordinating wise, because to navigate through it right now, you nailed it. The waters are a lot more murkier, and the coaches are being really cool about it, but it's intense. So I think it's good you brought that up. I don't have anything else for you, but it's a pleasure to always talk to you. I think you're doing great things. You know that. And everything I said earlier, I meant I think you do it the right way. I think you work your tail off. I think you have grit. I think you're teaching life skills. I think people that are under your umbrella and working with you, you're going to work really hard for them. And, but you're going to also train them to work hard to get what they want. And I think if you have not considered hiring this recruiting coordinator and you're listening, you really should give it, a thought. And it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I really enjoyed coming on and meeting with you guys tonight. This has been fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you tonight. And yeah, like I said before, I think that holistic approach is really important. Again, now that I'm a dad and I got two young boys, like that's definitely something I look for wherever they're going, whether it's a school, whether it's sports that they're playing. I maybe get a little nitpicky when they're playing youth sports, and I'm like, oh, come on, like we can do a better job with the coaching and with it not just being like, some guy out there yelling at them. And I appreciate those coaches that try and bring in some of those other aspects and aren't so worried just about the sport, but it's like it's a little human down there. Like you gotta work with them. So it's very cool to meet you, and it's awesome to see what you're doing. I love checking out the Instagram. It looks like there's so many people working with you, and you're coaching them up the right way. So we appreciate you being on.
Yeah. And another thing is volleyball, to me, there's a lot of pillars. And on this show, we've been lucky. We've talked to academic advisors. We've talked to strength and conditioning coach. There's a lot of things that makes this sport work. And I think without a doubt, when you're in high school or middle school and you're going through this process, having a recruiting coordinator helps hold you accountable, teaches you life skills, teaches you grit. And you really, not to sound corny, but you're launching these kids to college. And sometimes it does take a recruiting coordinator or someone outside the family to help shape that kid. And like I said it before, but I think people should really consider your services. So thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. This truly was a great interview this week. And, I love today she's talking about, some of the things that have gone on with COVID and recruiting. And Kevin, kind of nailed it there. And so did Kara. We're in a spot right now where you kind of need a recruiting coordinator to help you navigate what is going on right now in the world of college sports, because there are some people staying longer and it's going to affect the team. So you need somebody there in your corner who knows what's going on and knows what's happening with different teams and can get in contact with these coaches easily for you. So anyways, again, a big thank you this week to Kara Hill. And, we look forward to bringing you more next week. We got a coach from Houston Volleyball Academy in Houston, Texas. And he tells us a little bit about how he's trying to build up the girls' side of that club. And so we're looking forward to that interview next week. So you guys have a great weekend. Look forward to more volleyball talk next week.